Book 79 of 2019 was Extracted by R.R. Haywood. So I randomly found this book on Audible, and I listened to kind of like the sample, and it gripped me straight away. I was like, this sounds really, really good. And the way it's been produced is fantastic, because each kind of character has a distinctive voice and talks differently and responds to things differently, so that you get a good sense of like who they are as a person and how they've come to be that way. So the kind of different voices kind of amplified that characterization. I was gripped right from the beginning, because the way the story kind of unfolds, it's like it's got this action straight away, and then you kind of figuring out like how the different characters are kind of incorporated in the story. So it was really kind of like thrilling to begin with. I really enjoyed kind of like the incorporation of time travel and kind of like things like parallel world theory, which was done in a way that was accessible to people, and it was just really, really like nice to listen to, really kind of enjoyable to listen to. What was done kind of really well was, I was just looking at my board and thinking what else I was going to say. On the next thing on my board, it says, I don't normally like kind of like postmodern books where there's kind of like a lot of like expletives. Is that how you say the word? Expletives? Yeah, expletives, or like reference to kind of sex and stuff like that. But the way that this book does it seems authentic to the characters. It seems like, yeah, they probably would talk like that. They probably would make reference to things like that. So it kind of didn't cheapen the narrative. It was incorporated within it, and there's a lot of kind of excellent humor in it, which they kind of take the mick out of each other a lot, kind of to show like camaraderie, which I feel like a lot of books like lack. Like they don't do that very well. Like the characters are usually quite like separate. They don't kind of interact with each other like they probably would do normally. You know, if you think about when you spend a lot of time with somebody and you kind of get to know them, you kind of have a laugh and you take the mick out of each other and stuff, and that doesn't really come through on books very often, but it does on this one, so that was kind of really good. Having said that, whilst it's really good, it kind of loses traction about 8 hours in, so it's quite a long like audio, but about 8 hours it starts to then kind of like just go downhill, in the sense of it's quite repetitive. They're in like a bunker, and whilst I kind of understand that it needs to change traction because it's kind of mimicking what happens to one of the characters, like kind of go through a bit of a mental breakdown, it just kind of felt like it was getting ready to go into the next book, so it kind of finished on a low, and if it was a book in its own right, it would have finished differently, I feel. So I was kind of like, I want to read the next one because I want to see how this is going to unfold and how it's going to kind of come to a climax, but I was really disappointed with how it ended. I felt it was really, really strong in the beginning, really loved the characters, and then it kind of just, they're in a bunker and they're going through all these repetitive things, and it was almost like the dialogue that one of the characters was saying to themselves was just like really irritating. I think it was Ben. I can't remember his name. It's been that long ago that I read it, but he just starts like talking to himself whilst he's going through this mental breakdown, which I get what the writer was trying to do, but it just felt like it lost me, and so from that point on I was kind of like really disappointed. So I would recommend it for the beginning bit. The beginning bit was really good. I really liked the characters and how they kind of interact with each other. Loved the kind of integration of kind of some like intellectual stuff with the time travel and the parallel worlds theory. But yeah, it just didn't end on a good note for me, so beware of that if you are going to read it.